Alrighty, we are back with your favorite podcast show of the week. This is Location Weekly, and it's episode number 472. We're recording live on the morning of July the 7th. Brianna, how are you? Nice hat.
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you. I'm on vacation, so this is what you get. I was actually going to head to play tennis in a little bit, but yeah, I'm doing good. I'm enjoying some family time, and uh, we're vacationing in the new normal with the beach and face masks, and very regimented pool hours, and social distancing, and trying to make sure you tell your kids, like, sorry you can't play with other kids, but we are healthy and happy and continue to be grateful. So how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been a busy time. The weather is fantastic, so trying to kind of stay out and enjoy that. But yeah, business is good right now. On my new startup, you just mentioned face masks, so actually just finished a press interview because here in Toronto, as of today, July 7th, and the surrounding cities, face masks are now mandatory in all public spaces, every store, every business. Indoors, that's a requirement. And at ground level, we have some technology, as you know, that can help monitor capacity and face mask compliance and things like that. So, yeah, so kind of excited to see where that goes, and kind of the demand that comes from that. So,
You're famous again, Asif.
I don't know about that, but yeah, it's certainly hopefully a boon for the business. So. Anyhow, we've got
Awesome.
a good show for
Hope
you
so.
this week. We're going to kick off with a discussion about a major change in our industry, and then we'll kind of go over to an announcement from one of our member companies, and then we have a guest this week in our Members at Home series, and we'll come back with one final story as well. So, pack show. I'll let Aubriana kick it off as per usual.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just wanted to really talk about what this new Apple announcement with the um, you know, really what's going to happen when they update the operating system, Apple. In September, all of the IDFAs will be automatically shut off. And if you don't know what IDFA is, it's a mobile identifier specifically tied to your phone. And this helps advertisers to better understand your, consumer behaviors from an audience perspective, not usually from a creepy perspective. It also helps the developers create more of a personalized experience with you from an app perspective. And so now Apple, of course, is touting this change and tying it to more of a privacy centric approach, as the whole industry has been trying to be more privacy sensitive for consumers. But this move has a lot of implications. Now, just to like kind of cover all of the details about this, is that they're not getting rid of IDFA. What's happening is that your IDFA will automatically be turned off. So right now you have the ability to turn ad tracking or limit ad tracking, but now you'll be able to completely turn off your IDFA so that an app developer would not be able to see, that it's you specifically or what device this is coming from. And so you will be able to turn it back on, and it'll be on an app by app basis that you can choose to do this and share your IDFA with them. Um, I think that this is probably going to go a few different ways. I think that in order for developers to be able to continue to share a personalized experience with you, they need to know who you are. And I think that also you're not going to want to probably like log in every time and things of that nature, when you want to use an app. So perhaps there are some ways around it for app developers, but I'm not sure exactly how that's going to pan out. Some industry, friends and experts say that they're expecting the new opt-in rate to be roughly, anywhere between 3 and 7%. So this is a drastic decrease. This is going to affect all of the DSPs, that sell advertising, any type of mobile advertising. This is going to directly impact all the publishers who make money off of advertising and personalize and target that advertising. And it's also going to directly impact a lot of the data sellers. So those who aggregate this data, who repackage, resell it, create audiences off of it, and including, large companies like LiveRamp and all of these identity graph providers. So this is going to just impact a huge, we're talking about probably $100 billion worth of industry that this change will directly impact. And we'll probably see Google follow suit, at some point as well. Of course, touting privacy. We can get to the other part about the business in a minute, but why don't you give me your feedback first?
Yeah, I think it's a major sort of change and impact on the industry, as you've just pointed out. There's no question about it. I think in the short term, some of these publishing companies and some of these ad networks will survive on these Google portion of the industry. But the reality is that I think it'll all come into this type of environment before long, meaning that these, as we've always said, these app companies, the app providers themselves have to do a better job of articulating value proposition to the end user, of why they need this data, why they need that turned on, and so on. And so you have to clearly articulate that, and it has to be a value exchange. It cannot be a one-way, hey, we're just taking data and we're monetizing that data. And I think it will move the industry to, a state that we've been sort of talking about for a long time, which is, this idea that consumers are waking up, they're realizing their data has value. They want to participate in the monetization of their data, and they want to be compensated for it. And so I think we're going to see an acceleration towards that. I think the Apple's decision to kind of move off of this IDFA into a more privacy centric framework. I know they've got they're calling it a SK ad network framework, or SCOD network. In terms of this new privacy-based approach. But the reality is, from a location-based perspective, if you're using Uber, you're still going to use Uber, and they're still going to need that data. If you're using Waze, they're still going to, need that data, and that turned on in order to power that. So I think the onus remains, as it always has, on the app companies to articulate the value proposition. And better yet, to find a way to, help the consumer actually participate in the monetization of that data.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hardest part is that there's, I think that I think Apple does try to do a good job of putting consumer privacy at the forefront. But I also think that this is a big business play for them, right? So they control this environment. They get to say what works and what doesn't through their, operating system. And I think that this is really just a big play for them to take over and, make a huge push for a lot of money that's being allocated to other businesses right now. I do, like I said, we talked about Google last week, with the location sharing and erasing that. And, of course, they're trying to make this play for, consumer privacy. Again, I would expect Google may or may not decide to do the same thing with their mobile identifiers. We've also obviously can see that cookies are going away. So that's changing the ecosystem. So I think the challenge is that, you're going to see these bigger companies continue to monopolize everything, right? And that's just not the way that an industry should ever work, because then there's not really a lot of options. And from a consumer perspective, if they have everything of yours, then really what privacy do you have? They know everything about you. So I think that breaking it up and spreading it around in a advertising, universe makes more sense. I just don't know what that's going to look like long term. I think that it's going to ultimately come down to consumers also understanding that it's not like you're not sharing your data anymore. It's just that now you're only sharing it with Apple or with Google. So, I think from that perspective, we need to figure out what is a better long-term solution, because at the end of the day, you and I, we still want personalized advertising. If we have to see ads, which we do, because that's what pays for all of these free services that we use, whether it be social media or reading the news or anything like that. I mean, in order it is a value exchange, right? So I need to give up something of myself in order to read that for free, or I can subscribe and it is what it is. Then my first party data is belonging to that publisher and that's it. But I think that, we've got to do better. I just don't know that anybody knows exactly what that better is going to be yet. But I do believe that there's a bunch of companies that are, big companies. You've got to think about how this might impact companies like MediaMath and Trade Desk and Xandr. And, you're talking about companies with deep pockets. And I don't think they're just going to roll over and die. They're going to figure out another way to attack this. And I do think there's a great opportunity. We talked about this before, to put it back in the consumer's hand, right? Like, what do I want to share, when, and how? And, like, what am I willing to give up about myself? Can I tell you my preferences, what I'm in the market for, what I'm not in the market for, all of those things. And, between all of the people and all of the companies that are buying this data for advertising purposes, as long as I know what that's being used for, then, if you give me $25 a month, there's probably a lot of information I'm willing to share.
Right.
So I think this goes back to that. It's just about who's going to be able to implement that and have mass adoption.
Yeah,
So.
I'm completely in alignment there, and also in terms of there are a bunch of companies that won't survive this, and there's lots that will. It's not, in a lot of ways. It's I would say even on a bigger scale than GDPR coming into effect, and the impact that had on our industry, not too long ago, right? Some companies did not survive it. Some companies had to exit Europe, completely, and so on. And I think this is sort of the next wave, that will again, shake out the industry. And unfortunately, I'm with you. I think it means the big guys, the deep pockets guys, are the ones that are going to be able to adapt and survive, and a lot of the smaller, medium-sized players won't. And but I do think any change creates innovation and creates opportunity. And so look at COVID. Look how many businesses right now are accelerating technology deployments, whether it's face mask compliance technology like us, or contactless payment technologies, or whatever, that are now becoming mainstream, driven by COVID, right? That weren't before. So yeah, lots to sort of analyze and watch over the coming months. So
For
there
sure.
you go. All right, moving on to our second story, which is more of just an announcement that I wanted to highlight. So one of our longtime member companies, Bluedot, which is a geofencing location data company, originally out of Australia, headquartered now in San Francisco. Emil and Philippe, the two founders there, these guys have been powering a lot of restaurant industry companies lately: Dunkin', KFC, McDonald's, with their location SDK. And they just announced a Series B funding round of $9.1 million to kind of fuel growth and expansion and further investments. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that here's some good news coming out of our industry. And one of the leads on the round is a group called Autotech Ventures, as well as participation in the round from Transurban, which is one of their biggest customers. They're the company that runs the toll highway system in Australia across the country, using the Bluedot technology to measure exit and entry onto the toll highway system, as well as investment from Forefront Ventures, IAG, Firemark Ventures, and Mighty Capital. So, lots of groups coming together there just to get behind Bluedot, and just congrats to Emil and Philippe. And we're going to try and have them on the show next week to kind of talk about it in person. But just wanted to say congrats.
Yeah, that's awesome. Super excited for them. I mean, they've been participating in LBMA events, and we've known them for many years, and so it's exciting to see their continued growth. I love their technology. I've believed in it since day one. They have a really cool like testing app that you can even download and kind of see all the different features and capabilities that their technology stack has. So I'm excited for them. And I think it's really cool how they started out maybe with one sort of a concept and how that's grown over time and really spread out through different verticals, and just the ones that you mentioned, and how some of their investors are in, more than just retail, is really, really cool to see.
Yeah, it's interesting because like they did start out sort of in that finance and transportation and sort of utilities world, and then sort of really found their traction, and their growth of late in retail restaurants, those types of things. And I think a lot of it too being driven off of sort of the movement towards takeout and ordering online and delivery and all those kinds of things that are being powered by a lot of the apps that we're seeing right now. So yeah, so congrats to Bluedot. All right, before we go to our final story for this week, we do have a guest in our Members at Home series, a well-known gentleman in the LBMA community. His name is Scott McNulty, and he's the head of business development, or director of business development, I should say, at a company called RIOSEO, which is based in San Diego. And as their name implies, they're one of the big players in SEO, SEM, reputation management, all those types of things. So obviously, location and search, those things go hand in hand. And Scott is one of the guys in the industry who's making that happen for a lot of interesting brands right now. So here he is, Scott McNulty, Director of Business Development from Rio SEO. Sorry. All right, very excited this week because we have a longtime friend, partner, part of the LBMA community here. All right, very excited this week because we have a longtime friend, partner, part of the LBMA community here, Scott McNulty. He's the Director of Business Development at Rio SEO. Scott, welcome to Location Weekly. How are you?
Hey, good to see you. It's good to connect with you, my friend. Even though it's via video, it's always good to say hello.
Yeah, yeah. And Scott's been a huge part of the LBMA over the years, speaker at many retail local conferences, heading up the local SoCal chapter of the LBMA, very, very involved and very active. So we've been doing this series for a number of weeks now, while we've all been on COVID time. We call it Members at Home, Scott, and basically just chatting with people in their home offices and trying to, what's that been like for you? How has it changed the way you work? I mean, you're a guy like me that typically traveled a lot.
Yeah.
What's going on now?
Oh man, couple things. One, I'm fortunate to, if I just look over my right shoulder, I can see the ocean. I'm just 3 blocks from the beach. So working from home hasn't been too much of a hazard for me. Most of my career in sales, I've had the opportunity to work from home. So I've been able to build that level of commitment to doing your job while you're at home. We're a very close-knit team in the office in San Diego, so I do miss the interaction I have with my fellow teammates on the Rio side. We collaborate a lot. There's a lot of collaboration that goes on between all of the teams, and I miss that part of it. But so far, working from home, other than having my fiance who works downstairs in the office, kind of bumping into each other, it's been an okay experience.
Yeah, yeah. And from a technology kind of connectivity, staying in touch with colleagues and keeping up with work and whatnot, are there any new tools that you're using that you weren't using before this all happened?
Yeah, we switched to Slack about 1.5 years ago, and that has been very productive for us as a team. Again, just different channels, different ways to coordinate team meetings. From a sales side, which is the part of the team that I'm on, there hasn't been a lot of change for us. We did move to utilizing Zoom a bit more. It's freed us up a little bit more than our previous platform. But we as a team continue to meet once a week, doing a video call, making sure we're all checking in with each other and sharing funny stories, which I was one of those who might have had the camera on accidentally. So just make sure that little green button up there isn't on. Let's just say that.
There you go. Cool. Yeah. So what do you miss the most about kind of pre-COVID life right now then?
The interaction with our team. We have a great, the sales team on the Rio side is a fantastic group of people. We all like each other. We're very team oriented. There isn't a level of competition that pits one against the other. And so I miss that part of it a lot. I enjoy the people that I work with. And so that's probably the most I miss about it.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. So let's shift over now to the business aspects of things. From a Rio point of view, first of all, just maybe quick elevator pitch, like for those who maybe don't know, I'm sure there's not too many, but who is RIOSEO? What do you guys do?
Yeah, we're a SaaS platform that helps enterprise brands manage their location data across the search ecosystem. So whether that's name, address, phone number, or local pages and a locator and finder, local reviews, the ability to manage what's being said about your brand across this entire search ecosystem in one platform is really what we focus on, helping enterprise brands do that on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And are you finding that from, the business perspective, are you guys in growth mode, in trying to, stabilize and stay where you were mode? Or are you in a declining mode? Are you in a, acquisition mode? Like, how has COVID impacted the business in terms of the way you interact with clients or, trying to go after new business, those types of things?
Great question. There's a couple parts to that. We are definitely in a growth mode because our software, again, we focus on enterprise brands only. So we don't have a system that works with SMBs, and there's plenty of companies that do, and they certainly need the help. Our system is designed to help brands at scale. So something that has more than 30 locations. So what we've experienced since March 1st and the stay-home order here in the US and in Canada to where we are today, and different demonstrations that spread across the US, many of our brands were utilizing our platform to make real-time updates to those location data. Are they open? Are they not open? Are they closed? Are they not closed? Are the hours updated? Are they temporary closed? So we've been able to really step up and help our brands manage the craziness that was the last 4 or 5 months as it relates to making sure their consumers were informed about those locations. So for us, we've been in a growth mode that way. From a new business perspective, what we have decided to do as a brand is educate people. We have a fantastic team, and we have utilized the opportunity. I don't know if you know or anyone else that might be listening knows, but we have one of only 18 what Google calls gold product experts in the world. Crystal Tang's on our team. When you look at those gold product experts, many of them are on the SMB side, but Crystal is very focused and involved in the Google sphere around enterprise. So we have had the great fortune of utilizing her experience within the Google sphere and educating consumers or brands about the different changes that are happening, the different changes with reviews. Are you allowed or are you not allowed to answer? Google Posts, opening up those related to COVID, all the different things that we're seeing and the data that we're pulling in. We have decided as a company to educate those brands to help them through this. And that's kind of how we've managed to continue to grow.
That's great. Yeah. And I think it's so important to kind of get, in particular with your current customer base, to kind of really, sort of, it's all hands on deck, right? Like how can we help one another? One thing that we've seen here, like even with my new startup, Ground Level Insights, with mobile location data, is businesses across the board are struggling in terms of, getting the traffic back that they were used to on the restaurants or the retail side. It's nowhere near, close to 100%. It's down across the board. But one of the things that we're seeing is this ability where, one particular business or category of business that might be complementary to another category of business, by understanding that there's common customers that like both sets of products, and being able to work together to kind of cross promote or find ways to sort of cross sell each other's products. They're able to actually lift the traffic together, and so all the boats rise at the same time. And that's it's all hands on deck, and so we're all in this together kind of thing right now, and I think we're seeing that with so many companies.
Yeah, I agree. And what we've decided to do, and from a sales perspective, is really kind of follow that path that you're talking about, and that's help people understand what's going on so that maybe they can make better choices as it relates to their businesses. So that's been our focus.
Yeah. Last question for you then. Like, where do you see kind of things going coming out of this? Like, what's next for you, for Rio? Let's say if you just look even just to the fall, maybe.
A continued growth of adding new clients that recognize that when you have 30 to 1,000 locations, how difficult it is to make these changes on the fly and in near real time without somebody helping you is where we're going to keep focusing. We're seeing a lot of buzz around SEO and how important that is right now as different brands that sell different things maybe turning into more e-commerce versus in-store, or supplementing the lack of those store visits with e-commerce, and what changes can they make in their profiles and their presence that lets consumers recognize or see that and take advantage of that. And just kind of keep steering the boat forward. I think we're going to have a great 2020, and I'm really looking forward to 2021. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on that sort of move to e-commerce. I think we've seen all kinds of announcements already about a number of retailers filing for bankruptcy or closing lots of physical locations or whatever the case might be, but ramping up their e-commerce spend. So I think you guys are in a good position to kind of help service both aspects of that. And so, yeah, just, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and your day. I really appreciate it. It's great to see you. It's been way too long. Yeah, just good luck to you and good luck to the whole team over there at RIOSEO. So appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to lifting the glass next time we get together, my friend. See you soon.
Will do. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Cheers.
Thanks, Scott. Really appreciate you taking time out of your daily surfing and everything else that you do out there in the fantastic San Diego area. But we really appreciate it. And especially all you've done for the LBMA over these years in the local chapter there. So thank you, and good to see you. All right.
All right.
Final story. Yeah.
Yes. So we'll leave on a lighter note, and this is kind of a fun story here. So I'm sure as many of you, I follow a social media, they call him a social media star called the Fat Jewish. His real name is Josh Ostrovsky. But recently I came across this really fun thing that he had put together, and he launched a manicure truck in New York. So patrons could safely get a manicure. I don't know, probably like me, you have not had a manicure or pedicure in many months, as is in New York. Obviously, the salons have been closed since March, and I think if phase 3 happened as planned, it just opened yesterday, where the nail salons could open. But even then, as we've been talking about, I think that we're going to see a change in behavior. People are not necessarily ready to rush out and go to the nail salon. But he did this one-time event in Brooklyn, in Williamsburg, part of Brooklyn, and customers loved it so much they plan on doing it again. But basically it was like, imagine a food truck, but it was a manicure truck, and nail technicians are behind this plexiglass, and they're dressed in masks and protective gear, and you stick your hands through the holes and they give you a manicure. So this was a free kind of a pop-up that he did more to promote his wine line. It's canned wine called Babe, which was actually bought by Anheuser-Busch InBev last year. So you could get your fingernails painted for free, but it was the colors of the Babe line, which are pink, blue, or red. And so they want to be expanding to pedicures. He's had some fun with this, saying, I know all of your feet look awful right now, which I am sure that my home pedicures are just not doing my feet justice. And I am terrible at painting my fingernails. So I really wish we could get this nail truck down by me. I think this is an awesome idea. I think that, these are the advancements that sometimes, horrible situations and pandemics cause us to change, right? We change our behavior, what's interesting to us, and what we come up with creatively as far as providing services is always, pushed and challenged. And so I love stories like this and seeing somebody have a little fun while, doing some promotion for their other brands as well. So I think this is really cool. Check out the Fat Jewish. And maybe he will, if you're in New York, maybe he'll be in an area near you, and you can get your nails did.
Yeah. I think it's super fun. I think it's very creative. It's sort of born out of the situation, obviously. And you know, when I see stuff like this, it puts a smile on my face because it means that somebody's out there trying to find a way to not just make a buck, but to create something unique for their brand, to kind of bring something to people that can create happiness for them. And obviously there's a certain segment of the population that are just can't wait to get their manicure, right? And so if you can kind of bring it to them and deliver it to them in a way that's safe and protected, I think why not? And we had I don't know if you have something like this, Aubriana, but ever since I was a kid growing up, and we've moved a couple houses over the years, but there was always a guy, typically a really an older gentleman who had a truck that would come around and ring a bell and go to every street in our neighborhood. And what this truck did is basically it's a sharpening truck. So basically, he'd come around, and if you need to get your lawnmower blade sharpened or your knives sharpened or your garden shears sharpened or whatever, this guy would come around and do that. And I hadn't seen one of these for a number of years. And then last week, there was one on our street, and I'm like, this is like my childhood coming back to me of like, this sharpening guy. But the point is that I think like there's something that's been around a long, long time in my world here, and yet it's still so relevant today. It's still so needed today. And yet it's like you think about that and it's like nostalgic and old school, but sort of this idea of COVID is creating this opportunity to kind of bring us back to our local setting, our local community, things being done locally, like the milkman delivering milk, to your house, and those kinds of things, right? And I was reading some other stories about sort of innovations that COVID's creating in home design and layouts of floor plans, and how those things will change, and how when they build a bathroom in a new house, all the taps will be contactless, and all the whatever. It's driving innovation, and at the same time reinventing old models. Around this, they're talking about every house now will have a secure box at the front for Amazon deliveries and these kinds of things built in, as just part of the what they built. Because and that's what we had 50 years ago with a milk box sitting there, right? It wasn't secure,
Yep.
but it was there. So yeah, I love this kind of stuff. So I really cool way to kind of bring something to people that they need.
Yeah, I mean, 100% what's old is new. We're just figuring out new ways to deliver that, I think. I love when we, get to visit my husband's grandmother in Dominican Republic, and every day they have the vegetable truck that drives by. You have the shoe repair that comes and sits there in your front yard and fixes shoes if you need that done. And the sugarcane guy, like they have these people that are their regular community people that are there. And we always talk about like, how can we bring that here? Because there's such a demand for it. Instacart is great, right? But that local level of things is really important. And I know even like our local community now they have a drive-through local farmers market. So you can order online and then you just drive through and they give you the things that you've purchased. So you can support your community, you can buy local, and it's all right there. So it's all about delivering these types of conveniences with safety, obviously, but the things that are right there in our own community, we should definitely be supporting and growing, and not always, having to shop with the enterprise level. So I think this is awesome.
Yeah, so there you go. So that's our show for this week. Obviously, an interesting discussion about a major change in our industry with Apple kind of changing the way they handle the IDFA. Bluedot raising $9.1 million. A great interview with our friend Scott McNulty, and of course the fat Jewish talking to us about bringing mobile manicure trucks into New York. So thank you for listening and watching. It's been episode number 472 of Location Weekly. Our contact information, if you're watching the video, is at the end of the show. Otherwise, we're easily found on all the social channels. Please feedback, all those things. We appreciate it. And we'll be back next week, of course, with yet another show. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Bye.